Everyone thought of him as just a powerless village boy. However, the irony was that he later proved to be the greatest king in history. Years ago, a man named Gray rose from being an orphan to become the conqueror of the entire world. No one stood a chance against him, and he mercilessly wiped out anyone who tried to oppose him. But even with such immense power, his life remained incomplete because he was completely alone. Then one day, he suddenly felt as if he drowned in an endless ocean. Just then, a voice told him that he had to seek the light in his next life. At that moment, the king realized that he died, and in the very next second, he opened his eyes in a blurry room where two unknown faces leaned over him. They called him Arthur and talked about how much new energy their son brought into their lives. Arthur did not know who these people were, nor did he know where he was. However, he clearly understood one thing. He reincarnated with all his memories and knowledge intact. The once great king was now just a normal baby. He found this new life as Arthur quite embarrassing. He could not even control his body properly, and when his parents changed his diaper, he felt a strange sense of shame deep inside. One day, Arthur saw his father use magic to enhance his body. He did this to plow the field with a single punch, and then Arthur saw his mother heal him when he got injured. This sparked his curiosity, and he realized that this world was not Earth because magic existed here. Arthur soon learned that his father was an adventurer who often went with friends to hunt monsters. He understood that everyone in this world had the freedom to carry weapons, which made it a dangerous place. For this reason, he decided to become strong as soon as possible to ensure his survival. But the problem was that he was just a small baby who fell asleep the moment he heard his mother's lullaby. Still, he slowly overcame his frustration and began to enjoy these peaceful moments. This was because, in his past life, he feared assassin attacks even while he slept. A few months passed, and Arthur started to crawl around the house. He pretended to sleep so his mother would leave him alone, and then he quietly went to the home library. There, he searched for books to understand this world. He discovered that the continent he lived on had a human kingdom in the south and the land of elves in the north. A king ruled the human kingdom. Unlike his past life, the king's son became the successor here, and no bloody battles occurred for the throne. Then he found another book on magic and realized that magic was the reason science and technology lagged in this world. He read that only about 1% of the population could use magic, and magical ability depended mostly on one's parents. The book stated that there were two main types of magic users. First were augmenters, who used mana to massively boost their physical abilities. They fought like warriors. The second category consisted of mages, who released mana outside their bodies to cast spells. Arthur learned that his father was a mana augmenter, but his mother's healing abilities suggested she was no normal mage. He put that thought aside for the moment and continued to read about the process of becoming a mage. The book explained that one needed a mana core to use magic, which formed from the mana present inside the body. It formed by condensing mana at a single point. Most people achieved this around puberty. It took years to create a strong mana core. However, this concept was not new to Arthur. In his past life, he controlled his body's internal energy, known as ki. Creating a ki core was just like creating a mana core. Arthur began to focus the mana inside his body, hoping this would be his first step toward power in this world. But just as he came close to forming a mana core, his mother found him and took him back to bed. 2 years passed in the blink of an eye. One day, while Arthur's mother wrote about him in her diary, he went outside to learn sword fighting from his father. As he swung a wooden stick like a sword, his mother came out and got angry at her husband for teaching their son to use a sword, while he had only just learned to walk properly. For Arthur, this was no hobby because he now knew well that his mother was the real boss of the house. His mother sometimes took him to the nearby town, and Arthur felt extremely happy every time he went there because he got a chance to understand this world closely. From weapons to strange items, everything fascinated him. But the thing that attracted him the most was magic, and staying in the city gave him the best chance to see it. Apart from these trips, Arthur lived a peaceful life with his parents, and although he felt uncomfortable being trapped in a child's body, he gradually started to like this peaceful life. His parents took care of his every need, and this reminded him of his past life's orphanage. There, he longed for a family, but that dream never came true. One day, Arthur saw his father practice magic to increase his strength. To observe and learn from him, he was excited, but despite his best efforts, his father could hardly lift a few stones from the ground. Arthur was not impressed this time because, according to him, picking up stones with hands would be much faster than this. But then his mother came close and calmly explained that this was not his father's best attempt, and in the second round, his performance became much better. To impress his wife, Arthur's father used all his strength again and unleashed a series of heavy attacks that made the ground tremble slightly. This time, Arthur was truly shocked, and his mother said with full confidence that Arthur would also grow up to be a powerful warrior. Arthur wanted to try all this immediately, but his mother took him with her to sleep. While walking, they passed by the library, and Arthur asked for permission to read books. His mother Arthur flatly refused. But seeing his innocent pleading eyes, her heart finally melted. In the end, she left Arthur with the books and went outside with her husband. Arthur tried to concentrate his entire body's energy to form a mana core, which he had been silently practicing for the last 2 years. He felt he was very close to a breakthrough, and suddenly his mana core formed inside his body. The very next moment, a powerful blast occurred. The whole house shook, and Arthur's father tried to save his wife and got injured in the attempt. Both were terrified. They thought they might be in danger, but as soon as they went inside, their eyes widened in shock. Arthur was floating in the air, wrapped in golden light. Arthur gave a proud smile and casually said that he could finally use magic. He landed on the ground and walked toward them. Just then, debris from the roof started falling on him. Arthur panicked. He thought this might be his end, but his parents ran toward him without a second thought and used their bodies to save him from the falling debris. That was when Arthur realized for the first time that his parents' instinct was only to protect him. When they held him and started crying, Arthur was completely confused. In his past life, he had never felt such emotion. Parents there only showed pride or disappointment, nothing else. What was this new feeling? Thinking this, Arthur also started crying and instinctively hugged his mother. A few years later, Arthur had become a young boy and started learning combat skills from his father, Reynolds. They stood facing each other in the garden where Reynolds tried to give him his precious gloves, but Arthur refused because he knew that at this age he would not be able to handle them. Instead, he picked up a wooden sword, and his father did the same. Arthur attacked without delay and struck 3 times in a row, but Reynolds was more powerful and easily blocked every blow. Arthur understood that his father was reinforcing the wood with mana. He decided to do the same and poured all his power into his wooden sword. Moments later, he ran toward his father again, and this time Reynolds was shocked when Arthur's blow broke his stick in half. Arthur smiled and said that his wood was better, but Reynolds replied calmly that endurance was what really mattered. Still, he understood that Arthur was a rare talent and made the difficult decision with his wife to send him to a skilled teacher outside the city. His mother, Alice, was completely against this because she did not want to send her 4-year-old son away. Reynolds explained that at such a young age, Arthur's power was abnormal and he needed proper guidance. Before a final decision could be reached, Arthur interrupted and said that they would all go together. Even though the idea seemed a bit silly, his parents agreed immediately, perhaps because problems like housing crises did not exist in this world yet. A few days later, Alice and Reynolds, members of their old party, joined them. Arthur introduced himself most politely. In this group were Adam, the leader, Angela, a curvy woman, Durden, an average-looking guy, Helen, the archer, and Jasmine, who looked at Arthur with suspicious eyes for some reason. Soon they started the journey, and Arthur noticed that in this world, transportation was still quite outdated, whereas in his previous world, air Uber was available everywhere. After a while, they stopped for food, but wolf-type monsters came out of the jungle due to the smell of food, and the plan failed. Jasmine instantly sprang into action. She pulled out her 2 daggers and cut down whichever wolf came in front of her. Reynolds, Adam, and Helen also killed many monsters with their respective weapons. Meanwhile, Durden and Angela used their magic to completely wipe out the remaining animals. That night, they ate monster meat, and after a while, Alice noticed that Reynolds' hand was still bleeding. She decided to heal him. The rest of the party members immediately created a defensive formation around them, which confused Arthur for a moment. Then he understood that Alice was an extremely rare healer mage, and due to this rarity, there was always a danger of her being captured. This was the reason. They left the city and lived in hiding in the countryside. Thankfully, the healing magic worked without any issues. After this, Adam felt he needed some exercise and asked Arthur for training. Arthur agreed, and Adam wrapped the sharp tip of his spear with cloth to prevent serious damage. Both charged their weapons with mana, but Adam was completely stunned when Arthur made the first move. He increased his speed with magic. Like lightning, he moved toward Adam. Suddenly, he vanished and then appeared behind him. Adam was completely shocked. Unfortunately, right there, Arthur's foot slipped slightly, and in this single moment, Adam got a chance to react. In moments, an intense altercation broke out between the two. Everyone was shocked to see Arthur's agility, but at the very last moment, due to his light body, he jumped into the air. Before things could get worse, Angela used her wind power and saved him. Arthur landed comfortably on the ground, while the rest of the team started scolding Adam that he became too harsh with such a small boy. Adam tried to justify himself and said that this kid was much more powerful than he looked, but no one took his words seriously. On the other hand, Jasmine became quite impressed with Arthur's skills and started asking him questions about his techniques. The next few days passed like a fast forward. Arthur trained with almost every member of the party. He ate with them, slept with them, and then went back to practice. He learned the lance technique from Adam, push-ups from Reynolds, archery from Helen, and how to run like a bolt from Jasmine. And it seemed that Jasmine started to like that little boy quite a bit. One day, Jasmine jokingly applied a little baby oil on his small sword and tried to take him to a music party, but his mother did not want Arthur to get burned, so she immediately called him back. Shortly after this, everyone resumed their journey in bullock carts. Then suddenly, some mysterious conditions arose, and they had to stop. The very next moment, a shower of arrows came toward them, and Arthur immediately understood that this was a bandit ambush. Durden and Adam jumped in front of the carts without a second thought, while Angela blew away all the arrows coming toward them in the air with her wind magic. Arthur peeked out and saw that they were surrounded by bandits on all sides. A cunning bandit leader ordered his men that Alice and Arthur should not be harmed. Everyone else should be killed because these two could be captured and sold at high prices. All the bandits jumped into the battlefield with enthusiasm, but Reynolds and his companions started taking them down, one by one. Arthur could clearly see that on an individual level, his team was much stronger. The real problem started when the bandits tried to overwhelm them by taking advantage of their large numbers. Due to the continuous fighting, the team members began to tire. Just then, the bandit leader clashed face to face with Reynolds and slammed him into the same cart where Arthur was sitting. The cart broke. Alice immediately moved forward to help Reynolds, but Reynolds told her not to use her magic because it could make the situation worse. He stood up himself and told Arthur to take his mother to a safe place. While he would deal with the bandit leader himself, Arthur clearly wanted to fight and confidently said that he could handle these goons. But his father shouted at him to use his strength to protect his mother because she was pregnant. It crossed Arthur's mind for a moment. When did they get the time to do all this? But then he decided to run with Alice. The bandit leader tried to chase him, but Reynolds attacked him again, which forced him to go on the defensive. Arthur kept running, but just a short distance away. His path was blocked by several enemies. Luckily, his companions turned out to be completely professional and took down all the bandits one by one and finished them. Arthur quickly thanked them for their help and continued running at full speed. Just then, suddenly, a mage attacked them and launched a direct assault with his wind power. Arthur decided to first push his mother to a safe place. The attack impacted him the most, and he was thrown into the air and fell straight down the cliff. While falling, he decided within himself that he would not die alone. He threw his dagger tied to a rope toward his attacker, and he too fell down with him. Durden and Angela immediately tried to save little Arthur with their magic, while his mother, with tears in her eyes, kept calling his name. But in that whole moment, Arthur felt a strange peace, as if he had achieved something. He wondered if this was happiness. Then suddenly tears started flowing from his eyes because he realized that he was about to become a big brother. But now this life was snatched away from him. After falling, when Arthur opened his eyes, he saw that he was still alive. Confused, he wondered where he was. Just then, the ground beneath him started shaking, and some gigantic thing appeared moving toward him. Arthur got up to see what exactly was coming, and just then, a scary demon called him by his name. Hearing this, he got badly scared. Arthur was scared of the demon, but he was a brave warrior who would not give up without a fight. He pounced on the demon, but the demon easily threw him away. Somehow, when he got up, the demon told him that he still had a lot to learn and then assured him that she was not his enemy, but his friend. Arthur did not understand what was going on, and just then, the demon suddenly started picking fruits for him. She told Arthur that he had to eat first. Only then would she talk. Otherwise, she would not answer any questions. Arthur had no option left but to eat quickly. After eating, Arthur asked the demon if his parents were okay. The demon showed him a vision of the road, where his parents and their friends were fighting bandits, and now that road was filled with the corpses of bandits. The demon told Arthur that all his loved ones were safe and had resumed their journey a few days ago. Hearing this, tears of relief came to Arthur's eyes. He asked the demon her name so he could thank her properly, and she said her name was Sylvia. A few days passed, and Arthur still lived in Sylvia's cave until his wounds completely healed. He survived on fruits alone. Arthur wanted to return to his parents as soon as possible, but Sylvia told him that it was not so simple because on the way, there would be a forest filled with dangerous monsters and criminals. However, Sylvia had another way to reunite Arthur with his family, but it involved making a hole in the fabric of space-time, and it took quite some time. Arthur understood this, and while Sylvia was preparing the space-time portal, Arthur continued training his skills constantly. Now slowly it became clear to Arthur that although Sylvia might look like a demon, in reality she was extremely kind-hearted, and even more than that, she genuinely cared for Arthur, and from here the bond became a little deeper. One day, while Arthur practiced by focusing on his mana core, Sylvia decided to teach him a technique that humans normally did not know. She collected mana energy from the air and made a compact ball in her hand. Seeing this, Arthur was literally shocked because he had never seen anything like this before. Sylvia explained that most humans believed they could either collect mana or use it. Both were not possible simultaneously, but in nature, there were many beings who could effortlessly do both tasks at the same time. She was ready to teach Arthur this skill, but before that, she asked one question, that if he became powerful, what would he do with that strength? Arthur thought for a while, and then honestly said that, after becoming strong, he would kill everyone who tried to harm his people. Hearing this, Sylvia's expression changed, and she pushed him away. Arthur got angry and also confused, but Sylvia calmly said that he failed her test because she could could not give this knowledge to someone whose thinking was violent and twisted. Arthur was surprised to hear this because in his past life, he was taught that power was obtained only by killing enemies. But when Sylvia asked him if he liked thinking about violence all the time, Arthur had no answer and remained silent. Then Sylvia told him that strength was not used only for violence, and she did not want Arthur to waste his life in anger and bloodshed. Her words touched Arthur's heart, and he felt as if Sylvia knew everything about his past life. She repeated the same question again. What would he do after becoming strong? This time, Arthur paused a little and honestly replied that he would protect those he truly cared about. Hearing this, Sylvia became genuinely happy and started teaching Arthur to collect magic directly from the environment. Surprisingly, Arthur grasped this skill very quickly. Excitedly, when he ran towards Sylvia to show her his progress, Sylvia suddenly pushed him toward the edge of the cave, and he was buried between the rocks. Arthur remained completely shocked, but Sylvia spoke to him via telepathy and told him to stay absolutely silent. A few moments later, another demon just like Sylvia arrived there and asked her to go back with him. Sylvia clearly refused, and in response, that demon threw a powerful orb of energy at her. Arthur started to panic deep inside, but Sylvia reassured him that she would be fine. Then Sylvia composed herself and unleashed her full power. Her demon-like body began to break, and she transformed into a majestic white dragon. She fired an intense beam at the demon in front of her, which he could barely block. The demon warned her that using such massive power would come at a heavy price, but Sylvia calmly said that she had no regrets about her life. Somehow, the demon neutralized her attack, and then threw several orbs of dark energy toward the cave. Sylvia lost her focus slightly while trying to save Arthur, and the demon knocked her unconscious with a huge attack. Sylvia realized that if this fight continued, Arthur would also be in danger, so she decided to risk her life to save him. She stopped time with all her remaining strength and called Arthur out, telling him that he had to go home now. She opened a portal in space-time and explained that it would not take him directly to his family, but he was now strong enough to survive and find them himself. Arthur understood that Sylvia was sacrificing herself for him, and his heart literally broke. Sylvia made him promise that he would always use his power to protect his loved ones. As a farewell, she gifted him a crystal, egg, and a feather and told him to take good care of them. Then she kissed Arthur, and at that very moment, golden tattoos appeared on both his arms. Sylvia told him that he would understand their meaning and purpose when the right time came. But for now, this was goodbye. Then she casually mentioned that creating a portal did not take that long. She intentionally delayed it because she truly enjoyed the few days she spent with him. Hearing this, Arthur cried and realized that at this moment, he was not strong enough to save her, even though he had promised protection. Sylvia gently said that the promise did not apply in this situation and told him to hurry. Arthur emotionally said that he did not care if she was a dragon or a demon because she was part of his family, and family was never left behind. Sylvia told him that he already had a mother, so Arthur decided to call her grandmother. And hearing this, the dragon started shedding tears. Then Sylvia pushed him toward the portal, and Arthur took the crystal egg and feather with him. But as he entered the portal and turned back to see Sylvia one last time, he was suddenly pulled away. As soon as he left, Sylvia returned the time in the cave to normal with her remaining power, and the demon immediately attacked her. She fell to the ground, but as the demon came close to her, assuming his victory was confirmed, Sylvia deceived him and unleashed all her strength from point-blank range. On the other hand, Arthur was passing through the portal, where he heard Sylvia's voice again. She said that it was natural to be sad, but he would have to work hard to turn that sadness into happiness one day. Arthur said he could not do it, but Sylvia confidently said that she knew he could because he was the most powerful king in history. Hearing this, Arthur was completely stunned that Sylvia knew about his past life. He wanted to ask her if she was the one who brought him to this world, but before that, he exited the portal. After crying for Sylvia, Arthur composed himself and put the crystal egg in his pouch. And from here, his journey entered a new phase. Then he looked around and realized that he was stuck in the middle of a dangerous, dense forest. Just then, Arthur heard a girl scream from a distance, and without thinking, he jumped through the trees and moved toward her. In a short while, he saw some bandits who had kidnapped a bony elf girl and were talking amongst themselves about earning heavy money by selling her on Epsom Island. Seeing all this, Arthur remembered the exact moment when bandits attacked his own group, and it seemed clear that these people were going to do the same with that girl. Seeing the elf girl's condition, he got angry, but remembering his promise to Sylvia, he did not let his rage dominate him. Instead, he decided to calmly follow the bandits because he was sure that these people would definitely take her to some human settlement. By evening, when the bandits rested a bit, they started talking about doing dirty things with the girl to have fun before selling her. And this was where Arthur's patience broke. He started gathering his power to deal with these perverts. And just then, he noticed that they were using magical colors to control wild monsters. He threw some nuts toward those animals, which made them alert, and they started roaring loudly. The bandits panicked because such noise could attract more monsters from the surroundings, and one of them immediately stepped forward too. The bandits started beating the animals to control them. Arthur was just waiting for this opportunity. He formed a blade made of mana around his hand and attacked that bandit from behind. He snatched his knife, but just then, another man looking for him arrived there. Arthur killed him before he had a chance to scream, but then he realized that his body no longer had enough strength to move much. He did not even get time to rest when a third bandit searching for his companions came there, and Arthur immediately attacked him. However, he only managed to injure his leg, and the bandit shouted a warning to his friend to be careful as a young mage was in front of them. The fourth bandit became even more excited upon hearing this, because such young mages were very rare, and selling him could earn a lot of money. He decided to capture Arthur alive instead of killing him. He put down his sword and started using magic. The very next moment, he pounced on Arthur with his magic-filled claws, and the ground beneath them began to break. Arthur somehow dodged the attack and turned to kick him, but the bandit was much faster than him. Arthur threw the knife tied with a thread toward him, but the experienced bandit caught it with great agility and ran straight toward him. He kicked the boy so hard that Arthur fell to the ground and then held him upside down. But just then, Arthur cast fire magic on his leg, forcing the bandit to let him go. The bandit could not even recover before Arthur threw the knife at him again, and this time, that knife spun around his neck in such a way that there was no escape route and embedded straight into his forehead. After this, Arthur finished off the last bandit as well, and freed the elf girl who somehow reminded him of someone from his past. He immediately snapped out of that thought and told the girl that she was safe now and could go home. But Arthur's injuries worried the girl. Arthur explained to her that it was nothing serious and then covered the corpses so that the girl would not see that scary sight. The girl still wanted to know what happened, so he told her that they had an accident and now they would never bother anyone again. After this, Arthur found some supplies in the cart and told the girl again to go home. But out of fear, she grabbed his hand. She pleaded with him to let her come along, and Arthur took pity on her and allowed her to accompany him. Then his gaze fell upon the enslaved monsters, and he decided to free them from their suffering because it did not feel right to leave them. On the other hand, the elf girl decided to free the horned wolves because elves respected all creatures, and if they did not release the monsters, they would die. Arthur tried to stop her, but the girl was fully confident that the monsters would not attack them. She freed them, and truly, those monsters peacefully went away from there. Seeing this, Arthur was surprised at her deep connection with nature. After this, he decided to drop her home, and while stopping for a short while on the way, he found out that her name was Tess. Arthur cooked food and told Tess to eat even if she was not hungry, as it would give her strength. Hearing these words, he remembered Sylvia. Just then, he saw that Tess was being fussy about the food. She said the food was not tasty, and she wanted something sweet. Arthur thought that perhaps he would have to learn to treat Tess like a normal child, because this was the first girl of his age he had met. Then Tess asked him what he was doing here, and Arthur told her that he got separated from his parents. They continued their journey in search of the elven village, and this journey turned out to be much longer than Arthur expected. Tess kept telling him stories of her village, and Arthur realized how different elf life was from humans. Suddenly, Arthur felt that a horned wolf was following them, and he decided to kill it. At night, he told Tess to sleep inside the tent and guard it outside himself. During that time, he began looking at the crystal egg given by Sylvia. He was just wondering what it actually was when Tess called him and asked him to come inside the tent. She promised that she would hide from her family that she had relations with him, but Arthur told her that he was fine outside. In a while, he understood that Tess was afraid of staying alone in the tent, and he listened to her and went inside. As soon as he came inside, Tess started accusing all humans of having twisted thinking and keeping many wives, and Arthur just thought to himself that he wished this were true. He asked Tess who told her all this, and she said that her grandfather did. Arthur clarified that only rich people could afford the expense of many wives, but before his answer could be completed, Tess fell asleep. The next day they started their journey again, and Tess gradually started feeling quite comfortable with Arthur. He remained troubled deep inside because his mind was stuck only on finding his family, and just then, destiny placed another problem before him. Suddenly, a tremendous pain arose in his head. It was so intense that he could not even stand, and seeing this, Tess got scared. She left him sitting there and ran into the forest to find herbs. Arthur sat alone, trying to endure the pain. Just then, the same horned wolf that he had freed earlier silently came in front of him. Arthur's heart began to beat fast. He thought the monster had come to attack him right when he was at his weakest. At that same moment, Tess returned with herbs. Arthur told her to stay back because he was sure the beast was about to attack. But instead of attacking, the wolf placed a dead wild boar on the ground and without saying anything, went back into the forest. Seeing this scene, Arthur was completely shocked, and Tess excitedly said that perhaps the animal returned this favor in exchange for saving its life. After After eating the boar meat, Arthur felt a little better, and then Tess told him that she did not find any special herb, but definitely found some mushrooms that the women of her village often ate. Arthur ate them without thinking too much, and in a short while, he got bad diarrhea. After this, both returned to the tent, and Tess started telling him stories about the kingdoms of humans and dwarves she heard from her grandfather. She said that she wanted to see those kingdoms with her own eyes, but heard that there were many bad people there, so she could not go. On top of that, outsiders were not even permitted to enter the elf village. Arthur could only listen to half of what she said because fatigue pulled him towards sleep. The next day, the pain returned, but Arthur somehow endured it because the elf village was now quite close. Tess told him that they had become friends now, but Arthur could not understand what to reply to this. He never had friends, so an awkward silence fell between the two. Arthur started remembering his closest friend from his past life, and also that moment when he killed him himself. Just then, Tess suddenly screamed with joy seeing the gate of the elf village. Arthur was startled, and Tess held his hand and told him to come with her. Arthur held her hand and moved toward the elf village, but as soon as they stepped inside, guards immediately arrived due to the intruder alert. Arthur could not understand what was happening, and the very next moment, the guards caught him. He got scared seeing the coldness in Tess's eyes and started thinking about what would happen to him. Now, when Tess remained silent despite all his pleas, Arthur felt that perhaps he was too quick to trust her. Even though Tess called him a friend in the forest, Arthur felt that in such moments words had no value. His heart began to panic, and just then the elf soldiers took out weapons to kill him. At that same moment, Tess stepped forward and, understanding the situation, requested the guards to stop. The guards said that Arthur was a dangerous human and they should finish him off before he caused any harm. Tess said that Arthur was her friend and he was the one who saved her life, but the guards refused to listen to her. Instead, they accused Arthur of brainwashing Tess. Just then, a powerful voice ordered them to be quiet. Suddenly, the gate in front opened and an old elf came out of it, who ordered the soldiers to release the boy immediately. When Tess went to check Arthur's condition and got angry at the soldiers, the old elf, who was her grandfather, explained that the guards' reaction was not wrong because a human had entered their kingdom with the missing princess. Then he introduced himself as Virion, the former king of elves, and thanked Arthur for saving his granddaughter, that is, the princess of their kingdom. Hearing all this, Arthur was completely stunned. He could not believe that this little girl was a princess, but Tess gave him that same smug smile. Virion asked him if his friend didn't tell him her royal status, and even though Tess said she did, Arthur was fully sure that it absolutely did not happen. Just then, her parents arrived there, and Tess ran straight into their arms. As soon as her father saw Arthur, like any typical racist elf, he ordered the soldiers to finish him off immediately. But Virion intervened and explained that even though Arthur was human, he was the one who saved Tess's life and brought her home safe. Tess also fully supported Arthur and pressured her father to allow him to enter the palace. Virion told Arthur that they needed to talk alone later, and Arthur felt a strange, mysterious power from that old elf. Hearing this, Tess held Arthur's hand and started running through the streets of the city. Arthur was a little surprised to see all this, but the elves kept staring at him with anger and hatred due to their long history of war with humans. It did not make much difference to Arthur, but the cold expression on Tess's face when he first asked for help was what bothered him deep inside. On top of that, chest pain was also troubling him, so he decided that he would have to be more careful from now on. In a short while, they reached the palace, and Tess ordered all the maids to provide every possible service to Arthur. She started planning his stay, but Arthur felt that first of all, he should tell his parents about his journey. He got permission to talk, but Tess told him to sit at the table and ordered tea and snacks before the conversation started. Arthur thought to himself, is such royal treatment okay for a human? Just then, Tess's father Alduin introduced himself and his wife Mariel. Arthur also introduced himself and greeted them respectfully, and Alduin was quite impressed by his manners despite his poverty. Impressed. After this, Arthur started telling the whole story of how he saved Tess from slave traders, and hearing this, the whole family filled with anger. They started cursing humans for this, but Arthur calmly said that, blame the profession, not the race. Virion asked him how he freed Tess from the slave traders, and Arthur told him that he was a mage. The king found it hard to believe that a child could defeat slave traders, and the elf soldiers started protesting even more loudly. They again accused Arthur of deceiving Tess, but Virion told them to stay back until they received final orders. Tess also stepped forward to defend Arthur and repeated everything the thugs said. Her mother hugged and calmed her down, and then her father told Arthur that they believed his story. Arthur then requested Alduin to send him back to his family in exchange for saving Tess's life, but Alduin called this an unfair demand. He said that he did not want to help barbaric humans, to which Arthur replied that by doing so, he would behave just like a barbarian himself. Hearing this, Alduin was shaken a little, but still refused to help. Just then, Tess started staring at him emotional, almost in a blackmail style. Alduin finally agreed and told Arthur that normally the gate to the human realm opened only once once every 7 years, but they could not keep him here for such a long time. So they would send some soldiers to take him home safe. Arthur was happy to hear this, but at that same moment, the pain in his chest became much more intense than before. He somehow endured the pain all day and came to his room's balcony at night to get fresh air. In the nearby room, he saw Tess playing happily with her parents, and seeing this, he remembered his own parents. Arthur wondered if they would be okay. Although he was fully confident that they were strong enough to survive the bandits' attack, he remembered them and wondered if they would be as happy to see him again as Tess's parents looked right now. The more he thought, the heavier he began to feel, and Tess understood all this. She immediately ran to him and apologized for the bad behavior he received from her family. Arthur said that everything was fine and lightly teased Tess that she would get a lot of pampering upon returning to her parents. Tess felt bad hearing this and said that upon Arthur's return, his parents would also treat him the same way, which increased Arthur's worry even more. He wanted to confirm with her and asked if his parents would really be happy to see him despite everything. Suddenly, Tess held his face and said that it was obvious his parents would miss him a lot because he was not with them. She also said that she herself was missing him because he was going home soon, and Arthur became completely speechless for a few moments. Just then, Firefly, like glowing flower petals, began to float in the air, and both got lost in that beauty. Suddenly, Arthur remembered the sadness he saw on Tess's face earlier, and began to wonder if something was wrong with Tess at that time, or if it was just his illusion. He decided to bring himself to the present moment. Just then, he sensed an attack toward Tess. Arthur immediately intervened to stop the attack, and ran toward the attacker, and found that it was Virion. Arthur angrily asked the old elf if he wanted to kill his granddaughter. Virion calmly asked if anyone could really kill someone with flower petals. Arthur opened his hand and understood upon seeing the glowing petals in it, and Virion praised his quick reaction and counter instinct. Now Virion was fully convinced that Arthur really fought the slave traders, but Tess got angry because she felt that her grandfather was bothering her friend. Virion explained to her that he had no such intention. He just found Arthur genuinely interesting. He took out a small wooden sword and gave it to Arthur to test his skill. Then he left Tess on the lawn. Virion signaled to proceed, and Arthur attacked him without a second thought. He tried to hit the old elf, but quickly realized that Virion was extremely fast. No matter how much Arthur boosted his speed with magic, he could not hit Virion even once. Then suddenly, that old elf stopped one of his attacks, and in that shock, his sword broke. A piece of the sword spun in the air and moved straight toward Tess. And here Arthur threw the sword hilt without thinking to change its direction. Virion was truly shocked to see this skill of his, and taking advantage of this opportunity, Arthur decided that now he would finish him with a body blast. But Virion was no ordinary person either. He stopped that attack with pure instinct. Arthur was not one to give up. He attacked again, and this time Virion got a slight injury on his forehead. Virion was genuinely impressed that Arthur was able to hit him and told him to be ready for the second round. Just then, Tess jumped from behind and attacked Virion, telling him to stop bothering her friend, that he should stop bothering her friend. Virion calmly said that he was not threatening anyone. Rather, if he did not keep himself under control, Arthur would have been threatening him. Arthur felt that perhaps this old man did not even believe his own words, but still, he politely thanked him for overestimating him. Virion clearly stated that he was not overestimating him, and if Arthur was truly grateful, he should become his disciple. Arthur froze completely at this sudden proposal, and told Virion that he could not stay here because his parents would be worried. The old elf replied that there was a way to tell his parents that he was safe. Before Arthur could ask anything else, that same old pain in his chest resurfaced, and he fell to his knees. Virion had seen all this before, and now he was confirmed that inside Arthur, some beast-like willpower was inherited. He told the boy that if he did not accept becoming his disciple, he might lose his life even before meeting his parents. That same night, while Arthur was sleeping, suddenly that unbearable pain returned to his chest. He tried his best to suppress it, but the pain kept increasing, so much so that it seemed to tear through his whole body and manifest in front of him. Arthur opened his eyes and saw a dark figure hovering over him in a scary way. Naturally, he got scared of that black monster, but deep inside, his mind began to work like a doctor. He wondered if this monster was a symbol of his anxiety or heavy responsibilities. As soon as that monster came closer, Arthur started screaming, but just then, he heard Tess's voice trying to wake him up. When Arthur came out of the nightmare, he saw Tess sitting on top of him, saying good morning with full excitement. Arthur did not want to see her irritated face early in the morning, so he asked her to leave him alone, saying that due to the monster dream, he could not even sleep properly. He tried to sleep again, but Tess thought he was calling her a monster, and she got angry. She told him to get up because her grandpa was waiting for him. Tess practically dragged him out of bed, and Arthur had no option left but to get ready. Then, Tess asked him if he was really going to stay with her, and Arthur honestly said that he did not know for sure yet, but Virion had something that might change his mind. and Arthur decided that he would make the final decision only after that. Immediately after this, Arthur and Tess came outside, where King Alduin was trying to explain to Virion that a human could not be given permission to live in the elves' kingdom. But Virion did not pay attention to a single word of his, and while sitting in his carriage, said that he liked Arthur, and the scene ended there. Just then, Tess, as per her habit, jumped in a dramatic style. Arthur saved my life, but her father silenced her, because now this issue was not about her. Anyway, Virion told everyone to stay calm, and seated the children in his carriage, and together, they all set out to meet a friend of the old elf. Inside the carriage, Virion and Tess started meditating. Arthur got bored, so he asked Virion how much time the journey would take. At that very moment, Tess fell on his shoulder because she was not meditating, she was sleeping. Virion revealed that Tess woke up early today because she wanted to come with them. Then he revealed that Tess was the only heir to the royal throne. Therefore, she never had any real friends in her whole life. She did not trust people easily and mostly kept her feelings hidden. But with Arthur, she remained surprisingly comfortable. Virion thanked Arthur for this, because when Tess was with him, she genuinely smiled. Arthur was quite impressed by the fact that Virion was so humble that he could even thank a child. And right here, Arthur felt that he could trust this old elf. After a while, their carriage stopped in front of a house completely separate from society, and Arthur became curious to see the person who could even invite the former king to their home. Suddenly, Virion went to the door and kicked it, shouting for his friend inside to come out. Then he moved forward to see if anyone was coming or not. But his friend opened the door at that same moment and told him to stop shouting. Virion introduced her as Rinnia, his old friend, a magician who had strange powers. He said that Rinnia could help Arthur with her abilities, and Rinnia asked everyone to come inside so she could start work immediately. Rinnia's house was filled with books, and Arthur wondered how such a bookish lady would help him. Arthur mentioned that Grandpa Virion said she had a spell with which he could contact his parents, and Rinnia laughed and told Virion that he was being overly soft on the kid. Then she explained to Arthur that she was a diviner, meaning she could see the past and future. She used her powers and realized that Arthur was so special that she could not even see his real past. Still, she understood that Arthur did not come here for any prophecy, but to meet his parents again and tell them that he was safe. Arthur nodded in agreement, and Rinnia asked him to lean over a bucket filled with water and imagine his parents' image as clearly as possible. Arthur focused every cell of his brain and tried to bring his parents' picture in front of him. At the same time, his parents were comfortably having lunch in their new house in the city. Alice prepared stew, and while serving Reynolds, said with a slight smile that Arthur used to like this stew very much too. But suddenly her mood changed. Her voice became a little heavy because today was Arthur's birthday, and he was no longer with them. She remembered the day Arthur jumped off the cliff and how helpless she felt at that moment. Meanwhile, Reynolds also remembered how much he drank in the guilt of losing his son, because it had settled in his heart that maybe all this was his fault. But the good thing was that his friends stood by him in that difficult time. Gradually, the situation improved, and soon they reached the city. On the way, the rest of their group members said goodbye to them and went their separate ways. Life had to move on, so Reynolds started working like a soldier again and worked hard to even buy a house in the city. Even though memories of Arthur still resided in their hearts today, Alice and Reynolds were now trying to live a normal life. Yes, sometimes both would get emotional just thinking about Arthur, and just then, suddenly they heard Arthur's voice. Both stood up from their chairs in shock. Arthur clearly told them that this was not the effect of some magical mushroom, but that he was actually talking to them. He told them that he was alive, completely safe, and at this moment was living in the kingdom of elves. He was using a special magical spell to contact them. He also said that even though he wanted to return home, coming back right now was not possible. Arthur explained that there was some problem in his body that required treatment, but as soon as the treatment was complete, he would return home without delay. Seeing their son alive, tears started flowing from his parents' eyes. These were tears of joy in which pain was also hidden. Arthur told them to take care of themselves until they talked next time. They hugged each other, and Arthur told them how much he loved them. As soon as he said this, his voice broke. He started crying, and as his tears fell into the bucket, his concentration broke, and Rinnia's magic ended. After this, Arthur composed himself and calmly requested Virion to accept him as his disciple. In a short while, they reached the palace, where Virion ordered his son to announce in front of everyone that Arthur was going to become his disciple. Alduin was not completely convinced about this decision, but Virion clearly stated that if any problem arose because of Arthur, he would take full responsibility. Hearing this, Alduin and his wife's strict attitude softened a little. They formally welcomed Arthur to their kingdom and even apologized for not behaving properly with him earlier. Arthur realized that the king of elves still found himself small in front of his father. Thinking this, a slight satisfaction appeared on his face, and he shook hands with Alduin and accepted their welcome. Just then, Tess jumped in, exactly as per her habit, and told her father that if he truly considered Arthur a guest, he should give him permission to to play outside with her because she wanted to show him the whole city. The father could not refuse her, even if he wanted to. And just from there, Tess held Arthur's hand and dragged him toward the market. Throughout the way, she excitedly kept telling him about different food items and shops. During this, Arthur accidentally bumped into a golden-haired elf boy and immediately apologized. But that racist brat called him disgusting and said that now he had human germs on him. Without any solid reason, he started flaring up at Arthur and said that Virion accepting him meant nothing because he would always remain an outsider. Arthur could not understand what this boy's problem was, and just then, some other kids also started taunting him to go back to the human world. Tess told him to stay calm and said not to pay attention to these racist idiots. But Arthur's mood had become a little mischievous. The golden-haired boy, whose name was Ferrith, himself gave Arthur a chance to take revenge. Showing off his nobility, he told Tess to take him along instead of a human. Tess immediately rejected his proposal. Just then, Arthur behaved as if he knew Ferrith's name and status very well, but intentionally pronounced his name wrong and showed fake politeness. Ferrith got even more irritated by this. Ferrith could not ignore this insult and challenged Arthur to a duel, throwing his handkerchief on the ground. Tess tried to intervene and warned that even though he might be noble, if he did anything wrong to her grandfather's student, the consequences would not be good. Ferrith replied that his father taught him not to allow anyone to insult him. He taunted Arthur and asked if he would run away like a coward, because his actions would also question his master's honor. Arthur was surprised that duels were such a normal thing in the Elf Kingdom that no one was coming to stop them. After a little thought, he accepted the duel, and Tess became the referee. As soon as Tess signaled to start the fight, Ferrith moved at full speed, ran toward Arthur, and the very next moment, Arthur landed a punch. In just one blow, Ferrith fainted. Arthur became a little disappointed because after so much drama, he expected more of a challenge. Tess laughed and said that this was bound to happen, and then she held Arthur's hand and ran away from the crowd. After this, they both ate snacks in the market, wandered around the library and some shops, and then returned to the palace to rest. Tess asked Arthur if he was excited about his training. Arthur did not show much interest in this topic because Virion had already told him that the training was going to be extremely brutal, but he also said that if he endured it, the results would be unbelievable. Still, Arthur got ready for the training. Finally, he showed his excitement to Tess and said that he wanted to take responsibility for his future himself and would work hard for it. Tess also replied that she would also work hard. Arthur asked her what goal she wanted to train for. Tess smiled and said that without any special reason, she just wanted to compete with him. The next day, Arthur's training under Virion began, and 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. Tess and Arthur's relationship remained the same. The only difference was that now, to wake him up, she used mana power on his legs. Arthur woke up screaming in pain and kept complaining. They both went out. There, they saw the king and queen going for a meeting. Arthur was lost in thought for a while about where they were going. Just then, Tess suddenly placed a burger in front of him and said with great confidence that he should eat it as it was one of the best things. A total scoundrel made it. Arthur happily took the burger, but jokingly teased Tess and asked who made it. And just then, Tess felt offended. In anger, she directly attacked him, and Arthur dodged her attack and reached the training ground, where Virion was already waiting for them. He told them both to fight properly and handed them wooden swords. But deep down, he knew that Arthur was now fully ready for the second stage of his training. By the time the practice session ended, Tess lay on the ground completely exhausted. She could not even breathe properly. Meanwhile, Virion explained the basics of magic to Arthur and said that when someone stabilized their mana power, they could acquire one of the 4 fundamental elements of magic. Which element one received also depended on their race, and elves were naturally strong, especially in wind magic. Virion further explained that dwarves were experts in fire and earth magic, while humans could theoretically use all 4 elements, but naturally, they possessed only one core element, and not every human could handle all 4 elements. Just then, Tess suddenly asked her grandfather why he did not give Arthur magic training when he was strengthening his body, whereas she herself had taken this training. Virion calmly replied that Arthur was weak, and hearing this, Tess went into shock. Then he explained that a powerful beast's will was present inside Arthur's mana core, which disrupted the balance between his body and mana core. Hearing this, Arthur suddenly started feeling a sharp pain in his chest, and Virion told him that this pain was also due to that beast's will. Tess started teasing Arthur to lighten the mood and attacking him with magic. She asked if he was okay. Arthur replied that obviously it would hurt when someone hit him, but somehow he endured it all. After this, Virion said in a serious voice that it was now time for Arthur to awaken the beast, power hidden in his body. If he succeeded in this, then he would not feel pain anymore and would become a true beast tamer. Arthur prepared himself mentally, and as soon as he sat on the ground, Virion started gathering his power. He said that he would ignite a spark in his mana core, and even though it might feel a little hot, nothing would happen that he could not endure. Then he flowed his mana into Arthur's body, and as soon as he felt the heat, Arthur screamed. Just then, the powerful mana left inside Arthur by Sylvia suddenly activated and forcefully repelled Virion's mana. Due to the violent shockwaves resulting from that intense event, both Virion and Tess were thrown into the air and fell far away, and only one question revolved in Arthur's mind. What exactly was happening? Just then, suddenly, that monster's energy calmed down completely, and he collapsed on the ground. Seeing this, both elves immediately became worried for him. As soon as Tess moved forward to check on him, darkness fell before Arthur's eyes, and he fainted. Arthur woke up a few hours later and found himself in the palace, where Virion stood silently beside him. The old elf first observed Arthur's condition carefully, and then asked him if he had any idea about his beast will. Arthur told him that a dragon had given him this power, and hearing this, Virion was genuinely shocked because he had never expected this. Virion seriously explained to him that kept a secret at all costs because the dragon's will automatically attracted unwanted trouble. Arthur thanked him when Virion suddenly gave him another piece of shocking news. He revealed that he would return home in 4 months, and hearing this, Arthur jumped off the bed in excitement and confusion. Arthur said that before the gate to the human realm opened, he had to stay here for another 2 years. But Virion explained that a cultural exchange program was being organized for the youngsters of the 3 kingdoms, and because of this, the gate to the human world would open. Hearing this, Arthur became a little sad because he had truly become attached to this place. Virion patted his head and casually said that he should rest because the training was going to be even more brutal from tomorrow. Arthur asked if Tess knew about this, and Virion told him that her parents were explaining everything to her themselves. That same night, while Arthur lay on his bed thinking about the upcoming farewell, the crystal egg kept with him for 3 years started shaking slightly. Arthur sat up in panic, and as soon as the egg cracked, worst-case scenarios began to race through his mind. But when a tiny, adorable dragon came out, Arthur literally melted at its cuteness. He thought of playing with it, but just then, that small dragon bit him and left a magical mark on his arm. Arthur did not understand what all this was happening, but he forgave it for biting him because honestly, it was very cute. Suddenly, due to that magical mark, Arthur started hearing the baby dragon's voice via telepathy and could understand everything it said clearly. The tiny dragon called him Papa, and Arthur decided at that moment to name her Sylvie in memory of Sylvia. The next morning, when Tess came to wake Arthur as usual, she completely panicked seeing Sylvie sleeping next to him. Arthur immediately woke up wondering what the drama was now, but as soon as he saw Tess hugging Sylvie because she found her extremely cute, Arthur decided to go back to sleep. A little later, they all headed toward the training grounds, and Tess repeatedly tried to pick Sylvie up, but the tiny dragon did not like this at all. Soon they reached Virion's hideout, and seeing a real dragon, the old elf almost died of a heart attack. Then Arthur told him the whole story of how Sylvie emerged from the egg after Sylvia's beast will awaken. Virion immediately understood that if people found out about the dragon, the situation would become extremely dangerous. So he advised Arthur to fool everyone by calling it a rare mana beast. Virion felt that this excuse would be enough because most people did not believe that dragons actually existed. After this, Virion announced that since Arthur had become a beast tamer from now on, his training would include both the mana core and the beast core. He clearly stated that nothing was better training than real combat. Just then, he decided to reveal his true power. The old elf suddenly released a massive amount of mana which completely engulfed him, and when the energy settled, he looked like a terrifying creature made of pure black aura. Seeing this transformation, Arthur was completely stunned and instinctively tried to protect himself, while Virion had no intention of attacking him. Suddenly, Virion came behind him and lightly tapped his shoulder. As soon as Arthur turned around to look, Virion had vanished, and only 2 black footprints remained on the ground. Arthur started sweating because he could not even understand where Virion was at this moment, and he surrendered immediately. Virion appeared behind him, and when Arthur jokingly said that after showing that scary form, he would have to pay for his therapy expenses, Virion laughed and returned to his normal form. Arthur admitted that he did not sense his presence at all, to which Virion explained that his beast was a shadow panther that could perfectly control air and sound, but because of this, mana drained very quickly. Then Virion handed him his sword and said that his real training started now. For the next few days, Arthur spent most of his time in meditation so that he could control his inner beastly instincts, and then fought against Virion's monstrous form. Gradually, he learned to draw power from his inner beast, and his chest pain completely disappeared. He became strong extremely fast and enjoyed the rest of his free time like a normal child. A few weeks later, Tess took Arthur to the market again. again, and there he met an arrogant girl, Faye. Arthur apologized politely, but Faye reacted as if fate itself had brought them face to face again. Arthur did not even remember her, and this very fact stung Faye deep inside. To avenge her previous defeat, she challenged Arthur to a duel without delay, but lost again in a single blow. After this, Tess reminded Arthur of Faye, and Arthur immediately helped her get up. Faye took his hand with some hesitation, but her friends stopped her from showing attitude because they knew that Faye had always wanted to be friends with that human. After this, Arthur asked Faye and her friends if they were all cultural exchange program, and they said yes, because almost all the noble kids were going. Arthur asked if Tess would also be with them, and suddenly everyone fell silent because they knew she was not going. Faerith tried to lighten the mood and said that they could not risk losing the fragile princess again. But hearing this, Tess flared up and threw him away with a single punch to show her strength. Seeing all this, Arthur went into a complete panic, and before Tess could cause any more chaos, he grabbed her hand without thinking and ran away from there. As soon as they reached a quiet place, he scolded Tess a little and said that she should behave like a princess because punching her own people was not royal conduct at all. Saying this, Arthur felt a slight irony because in his past life, he was a king himself and had done much more than just punches to his subjects. But just then, Tess put forward her point and said that she was mentally very troubled these days. She said that Arthur would leave here soon, and this thought was breaking her inside. But instead of understanding her feelings, Arthur started lecturing her like an old man. Saying all this, Tess ran away from there, and Arthur felt a strange emotional shock at being called old. After a while, he realized that he had hurt Tess's feelings, and guilt did not let him sit in peace. That same night, he took some fireflies and quietly went to Tess's room and asked her to come for a walk outside with him. Tess agreed, but as soon as they stepped into the forest boundary, she became nervous because going there was not allowed. Arthur calmed her down and said not to worry, as he would protect her. In a while, they reached the same place where they first met, and Arthur told her that the horned wolves they freed back then were still safe and healthy. After this, they lit a fire in an open field, and Tess slowly started feeling sleepy. Just then, she saw a ghostly shape in a twisted tree trunk and screamed loudly, at which Arthur started teasing her lightly. Then, Tess asked Arthur about the human world, and he honestly replied that he himself did not know much about it because he never got a chance to see it properly. Tess said she wished he could stay here forever, but before Arthur could say anything, she fell asleep, and soon the day of Arthur's departure arrived. Everyone gathered to bid him farewell, but Tess was not seen there. Virion gave him a compass with the royal family's symbol so that he would face no trouble finding his way when he returned next time. Arthur thought that perhaps Tess had become too emotional, so he set out toward the human kingdom with the elves who were going for the cultural exchange. As soon as the gate opened, Tess suddenly came running but stumbled and fell. Arthur immediately ran to her and picked her up. Tess started telling him to take care of himself, and just then, Arthur hugged her tight and said that he would miss her very much. Tess burst into tears, but their emotional goodbye did not last long because the gate to the human world opened completely. Arthur sat in Faerith's carriage and reached the floating city of Xyrus, where his parents lived, and he was extremely excited to meet them. He reached the given address. For a moment, he prepared himself mentally and knocked on the door. His little sister opened the door, and his parents came running behind her. Seeing them, Arthur's eyes became moist, and with a slight smile on his face, he said that he had come home. Alice and Reynolds could not believe their eyes and hugged him tightly. Their daughter told Alice, "Not to cry, Mama," and Arthur looked at her, realizing that this was the sister for whom he could even give his life. Arthur knelt before Eleanor and introduced himself, and Eleanor remained completely stunned seeing her brother. As soon as they reached inside, Alice rained questions on him, and Arthur reassured her that he was absolutely fine. Reynolds also told Alice not to bother the boy too much. Meanwhile, Eleanor felt a little jealous of how much attention Arthur was getting, but Alice explained to her that this was the brother whose stories she used to tell her. Arthur said that he wanted to meet her, and just then, the little dragon Sylvie jumped into his arms. After the atmosphere calmed down, Arthur told the whole story of his separation, although he did not tell the real truth about Sylvia because he did not know how his parents would react, and simply said that he survived due to sheer luck. He told them about saving Tess, taking training in the Elf Kingdom, and the treatment of his illness. He hid everything about Sylvie and his inner beast, and said that Sylvie was a mana beast whom he adopted because her mother could not survive. His parents accepted his words and were just happy about the fact that their son was alive. Just then, Reynolds suddenly asked him about the stage of his mana core, and Alice scolded him, saying that their son had just returned and he could only think of power. Arthur first asked about their current job, and Reynolds proudly told him that he was a security trainer at a famous auction house. Then, Reynolds revealed that his mana core had reached the dark orange stage 2 years ago, which was considered the mid-level of the power scale. Arthur was impressed, and thought about how hard his father must have worked to reach this point, while he himself was at the light red stage, which was just one level below dark orange. Reynolds got nervous and jokingly challenged Arthur to a duel. Alice was just scolding him when some people entered the house. A man named Vincent asked Reynolds if his son was alive, and Arthur began to wonder what his motive could be. Reynolds explained that Vincent was the owner of that auction house and also owned this house. Arthur greeted Vincent and his wife, and due to Sylvie's cuteness, Lilia quickly became friends with her. After this, Reynolds mentioned that he and Arthur were going to wrestle in the garden and gave Vincent an invitation to watch the match. Vincent was surprised, but out of curiosity, went toward the garden with everyone else. They could not believe that Arthur's mana core was at the light red level, but Alice calmly explained that her son was a fast learner and had no reason to lie. Still, this fact was not easy to digest because even top students of the most reputed training academies usually reached the light red level at the age of 13, and Arthur was only 8 years old. Meanwhile, Arthur and Reynolds finished their warm-up and ran toward each other without delay. Arthur blocked Reynolds' attacks and then immediately counterstruck. Reynolds stopped him easily and said that he still needed more practice. But just then, Arthur used techniques learned from Virion and genuinely surprised him. He managed to push Reynolds back. Reynolds was impressed, but said in a serious tone that Arthur would not get a second chance now because he was going to get completely serious. He focused mana around his fist and turned it into flames. Seeing which, Arthur was truly shocked. Arthur knew that in this world, every mana user possessed a natural element from birth. For mages, identifying and using that element was relatively easy, but for augmenters like Reynolds, reaching that level required intense practice and deep insight. Reynolds suddenly covered his entire body with his blazing mana and moved toward Arthur, and Arthur could barely block his attacks. While being pushed back, Arthur thought that in his past life, he had a power name, Ki, which was conceptually similar to mana, but the difference was that a Ki master could decide for himself which element he wanted to use. Arthur tried to clash with his father, thinking that in this life he was not born with any specific element, and perhaps that was why he could use every element. Due to his past life's experience and this life's training, he was fully confident that he could defeat Reynolds. He gathered mana in his fists, and moments later a golden glow began to emit from them, seeing which everyone present was shocked. Arthur moved rapidly toward Reynolds and blocked his burning punches with that golden aura emitting from his hands. The collision was so tremendous that a powerful shockwave pushed both of them back, and then Reynolds aggressively struck a heavy blow at him. As soon as Arthur moved forward again, he remembered how he had improved his ki stream during training with Virion, and that same technique was useful to him now. He had gained control over the fire element very quickly, and seeing this potential, the old elf decided to push him even further. Now, as soon as Arthur remembered that training, he formed the golden aura again, but this time he turned it into lightning. The flash of electricity emitting from his body set the grass on fire, and Reynolds was left watching in surprise because Arthur had achieved a higher form of fire magic. Arthur told him that this was not the time to be shocked because he had a plan even beyond this. He suddenly used water magic and controlled the fountain's water to attack Reynolds. Seeing two different magic types at once, everyone's faces went pale, and Reynolds could barely save himself from the water attack coming from behind. Saying this, Arthur stopped his attacks, and Reynolds hugged him without wasting a single moment. He said he was extremely proud of his son and asked when he learned all this. Arthur said that he learned this recently, but he could not fully control water yet. Alice and Eleanor took this quite casually as if it were a normal thing, but Vincent and his wife remained completely stunned and became convinced that Arthur was truly a prodigy. After a while, everyone came inside and sat at the dining table, where Vincent told Reynolds that his son's future was very bright. Reynolds also expressed agreement and said that he knew this since Arthur awakened his consciousness at the age of 3, and in that process almost destroyed their house. Hearing this, Vincent was even more shocked, and Reynolds fell back in his chair laughing in pride. Just then, Vincent suddenly stood up and suggested that Arthur should be sent to Xyrus Academy. Hearing this, Reynolds was surprised and asked if he was sure because Xyrus Academy was the largest institute on the entire continent for training mages. Anyway, Vincent's wife agreed completely and told Arthur's parents that there was no need to worry about the fees because he wanted to bear the entire cost of his education, in the hope that in the future, this investment would be beneficial for them too. Hearing this, Alice got worried and said that they did not not even know if the Academy would admit Arthur or not. But Vincent spoke with full confidence that he knew the director of the Academy and could arrange something. Just then, Arthur interrupted and said that since this matter was most related to him, therefore, his opinion also mattered. He said that he had just reunited with his family and did not want to go far from them so soon. Vincent understood his point, and Arthur left saying that he was very tired due to the practice fight. Arthur moved inside, but Lilia followed him because she was genuinely impressed by his power. She told him that he was going in the wrong direction and asked him to follow her because she would show him a better place. Lilia took him to the kitchen built in the basement, where she started talking cheerfully to the servant and asked to make some tasty meat dishes for herself. An old maid advised her to pay attention to her eating because her weight had recently increased, but Lilia immediately turned back and said not to comment on her weight. Just then, a servant told him that whenever Lilia was stressed, she came here looking for food. Arthur was curious, and the servant further explained that Lilia and her parents wanted her to become a mage, and this expectation weighed heavily on her. At night, Allison Reynolds came to Arthur's room and talked to him a little more. They told him how happy they were about his return and also said that they were very proud of him. They said that Arthur would become a great mage one day, and Arthur wanted to tell them something, but they stopped him in the middle and said that they would talk about the rest tomorrow. Saying this, they bade him good night and let him sleep. The next morning, as soon as Arthur woke up, he ran straight toward the hall because some of his old friends had come to meet him. These were members of his parents' party, and they were extremely happy to see him back. Mother Angela hugged him so tightly that his breath got stuck, and then he high-fived Durden, the tank. Adam and Helen welcomed Arthur while fighting amongst themselves, and just then, suddenly Jasmine started frisking him with the urge to touch him without any reason. Then she hugged him and apologized to Arthur, saying that it was all her fault. After this emotional reunion, everyone started telling Arthur stories of their recent missions and, as always, kept arguing over small things. Listening to them, Arthur realized that he still knew very little about this world, and becoming an adventurer could be a good way to understand it. But looking at his family, he thought that he was not ready to leave them again right now. Arthur started practice in his room. He tried to focus his power to such a level that it felt as if time itself had slowed down for him, but he could not hold that state for long and fell down exhausted. At that moment, he thought that he had to become strong quickly to protect his loved ones, and just then, Sylvie came and hugged him tightly. Arthur hugged her back tight, but just then, suddenly he realized that a strange smell was coming from her. He paused for then without thinking anything, he took her straight for a bath. Right after the bath, his entire family arrived there and laughingly said that now it was his turn for grooming. In no time, Arthur found himself sitting on a chair where, as soon as he sat, it felt like his complete makeover was about to happen. In a short while, he got a fresh haircut, and his mother and sister literally melted upon seeing him. Arthur asked with a little confusion why so much preparation was needed. Then Lilia's mother told him that next time they were going to take him to their auction house, and if he looked dirty like that, taking him there would not be possible. Then she casually also said that today they were taking him to tour Xyrus City. Hearing this, Eleanor immediately insisted on holding his hand in excitement. Arthur agreed, but just then, Lilia spoke up that she was feeling jealous because before Arthur came, Eleanor always stayed with her. Anyway, everyone went out to tour the city together. On the way, when Arthur jokingly tied a hair tie on a statue's finger, suddenly some boys threw a hair tie at his head. They left from there laughing, and Arthur asked confusedly who these rude boys were. Lilia told him that they were students of Xyrus Magic Academy, and because in society they received royal-type treatment, that was why most of them became arrogant and ruffians. Before Arthur could ask more questions, he sensed a familiar energy from a nearby shop. He instinctively moved toward that shop and went inside to see that beast cores were kept there. Lilia's mother explained that these were mana cores extracted from magical beasts, which were used to make a person even more powerful. All this was new to Arthur because the elves had never even talked about extracting mana cores from animals. She further explained that beast core depended on its effect and the beast will present in it. The price of some rare cores could go up to 100 gold coins, which was enough to give Arthur and his entire family a luxurious life for about 250 years. Then she casually said that they were soon going to sell some beast cores in their auction house, and Arthur could touch one of them if he wanted, but Arthur thought to himself that he did not want to do that at all. On the other hand, Lilia nervously told her mother that she should also take a beast core, but her mother clearly refused and said that even after taking a beast core, there was no guarantee that she would become a magician. Hearing this, Lilia became more upset, especially when her mother reminded her that these cores were extremely expensive. Lilia replied that cheaper options were also available, but her mother refused to listen to her. For this reason, Lilia's mood remained bad the whole time, and seeing her, Arthur felt sad deep inside. When he saw Lilia going alone, he walked behind her to stop her and explain explain not to rush. Lilia reached a weapon shop where she spotted some cheap animal cores that she could buy with her pocket money. But as soon as Arthur asked her if she was really sure, Lilia was startled. Arthur repeated the same things her mother said and advised her not to be so impatient. Hearing this, Lilia flared up at. She angrily said that Arthur would never understand her feelings because he was special. Arthur tried to calm her down, but just as Lilia wanted to push him away, she bumped into a boy coming from behind who turned out to be a student of Rizz Magic Academy. Lilia immediately apologized, but that arrogant boy tauntingly asked what kind of half-hearted apology this was. He started scaring her. Just then, Arthur instinctively stepped forward and protected her. Hearing the noise, the shopkeeper also arrived there, but as soon as he saw the academy students, he immediately stepped back. Those arrogant boys decided to bother Lilia more, and one of them created a small flame on his fingers. Arthur also activated his magical power. Just then, suddenly, Lilia's mother arrived there and told both of them to cancel the magic immediately. At first, the students and the shopkeeper told her not to interfere, but as soon as they found out that her husband was the owner of the same auction house that gave heavy donations to the Magic Academy every year, both their faces went pale. The students decided to go back without causing further trouble. But while leaving, they mocked Lilia, saying that a loser girl like her could buy a seat in the academy only with money. Hearing this, Arthur's blood boiled, and he was about to fight. But Lilia stopped him because she somewhat agreed with the boy's words. Later, when everyone returned home, Vincent was worried to know that Lilia and Arthur almost had a fight with the academy students. Lilia apologized, but Vincent reassured her that there was nothing to worry about. He also told Arthur that he did not need to be afraid because he donated so much to the Magic Academy that such a small incident would not affect his chances of getting a seat there. But something else was going on in Lilia's mind. She started feeling that her father wanted to send Arthur to the academy instead of her because she herself failed to use magic. Thinking this, she started crying bitterly, shouted at everyone, and ran away from there. At night, Arthur went to call her for dinner, but she was not in her room. Just then, a servant came to take him to Lilia. Meanwhile, Lilia was lost in her thoughts. She remembered that her parents always wanted her to become a magician, and going to the academy was her biggest dream. But after trying repeatedly, when her magical powers did not awaken, she began to break. On top of that, her father saying that her seat would remain reserved due to donations increased her frustration even more. She tried to compose herself somehow, but then Arthur came into her life, and her parents started talking about sending him to the academy. For an insecure girl, bearing all this was extremely painful. After a while, Arthur reached the kitchen where he found Lilia dozing off and gently woke her up. He was about to apologize to her, but then stopped. He thought that by doing so, he would look even more arrogant. Just then, suddenly Lilia apologized herself and admitted that she was jealous of him because Arthur had drawn all her father's attention to himself. She started blaming herself that she could not awaken magic, and perhaps her parents had lost hope in her. Hearing this, Arthur's heart melted. He immediately took her face in his hands and told her not to overthink too much. He said with a slight smile that he also knew very well how hard she was working, so her parents must understand this even more deeply. Then, without any special reason, he told a small story related to Tess and casually said that his father or Eleanor had so much interest in him just because he was a new member in their life, and naturally they were curious to know about him. Hearing this, Lilia laughed and accepted that perhaps she had created all this pressure on herself. But in Arthur's mind, somewhere felt that this was not the whole truth. He knew that Lilia carried the weight of everyone's expectations around her, and right there, he decided that he would help her awaken her magical powers. Shortly after, he returned to the drawing room and told Lilia's parents that she truly wanted to awaken her magic. Therefore, he sent her to the place where he himself trained for 3 years. He calmly assured them that she would be safe there, and genuinely happy too. But her parents could not immediately trust his words. They questioned him on how he sent Lilia without asking them, and Arthur clearly stated that this was Lilia's own decision. When he gave her a choice, Lilia decided not to talk to her parents because she feared that doing so would make her doubt her decision again. After this, he gave Vincent a letter in which Lilia described herself as a burden on her parents until she became capable of using magic. She wrote that no matter how long it took, she would become a magician. And reading this, Vincent broke down inside. He started blaming himself. He said he always thought that if Lilia became a magician, her future would be secure and bright. But he had no idea that this thought would force her to take such a risky decision. He said emotionally that even if Lilia did not become a magician, he would be just as happy as long as Lilia was happy. And this moment gave Arthur the chance to call Lilia out from her hiding place. Her parents were completely shocked by this turn of events, and Arthur immediately apologized for lying. He explained that his only motive was to make Lilia realize that her parents loved her unconditionally. Vincent told him that it was okay because now he had understood his mistake. He immediately apologized to Alice and Reynolds as well, and said that when their son had just returned to them, he should not have been in such a hurry to send him to the academy. Then he told Lilia Lilia that if she did not want to join the academy, there was no need to put pressure on herself because she could be happy on another path as well. But Lilia firmly told him that she truly wanted to go to the academy, and for this, she wanted to work hard to awaken her magical powers. Her parents hugged her and said that they had full faith in her. Seeing this emotional moment, Arthur stepped forward to help awaken her magic. Shortly after, he made Lilia and Eleanor sit with their backs to each other, and their parents could not believe that he would truly be able to do this. Arthur explained with full confidence that the first step to awakening magic was to focus on breathing. He told them to close their eyes, breathe slowly, and maintain focus until they began to feel a light in that darkness. Eleanor saw the light first, and as soon as she started shouting in excitement, her focus broke and everything went blank again. Lilia felt that she was falling behind because she could not see anything, but Arthur told her to keep breathing calmly. Then he placed his hands on both girls' backs and said that even if they felt the slightest warmth, they should continue breathing. Gradually, he flowed his energy into their bodies. And finally, Lilia also saw the same light Arthur was talking about. Seeing their daughter feel the energy, tears came to her parents' eyes. After this, Lilia went downstairs and had a small party with the maids. Sometime later, Arthur reached Lilia's family's auction house and was truly amazed to see its grandeur. The auction house was filled with rich people, nobles, merchants, and adventurers waiting to buy rare collectibles and precious items. Lilia and Eleanor immediately went to see some beautiful beast cores, while Arthur's attention settled on a creepy monster statue. Meanwhile, Reynolds took charge of security. Shortly after, the auction started, and Vincent first introduced his VIP guests, King Blaine and his entire family. Amidst the audience's loud cheering, the king was welcome, and Arthur realized that his subjects truly loved him from the heart. The auction proceeded, and first, a dagger infused with lightning magic was presented. Arthur began to wonder if he could also enchant a weapon with his magic. Just then, he suddenly realized that Sylvie was missing. He decided to find her, complete unaware that the small dragon had bumped into a suspicious mage in the corridor. Meanwhile, the auction continued, and Vincent presented a lion cub. He explained that despite its young age, it was a powerful mana beast. The prince excitedly told the king that he wanted it, and the king immediately jumped into the bidding and bought the cub for 1,000 gold coins. Meanwhile, Arthur heard Sylvie's voice while looking for her in the corridor. He immediately ran and saw a strange man asking permission to inspect her. Arthur realized that the man was wearing an outfit like the royal mage's. Therefore, he did not want a confrontation. He politely asked the mage to leave his companion alone, and that creepy man sighed and said that he thought it was an auction item. Sylvie ran to Arthur, but the royal mage clearly looked unhappy. Arthur thought of returning to his seat. Just then, that old man stopped him and told him to leave the mana beast right there because he wanted to make a deal with him. He claimed that only a person like him could bring out the real potential of such a mana beast, and he should be thankful that he was getting this opportunity. To show his power, he threw a fireball, which Arthur barely dodged, but he was not impressed. Arthur asked him why, just because he was a royal mage. He was demanding his companion from him, and in response, he launched another fire attack at that old man. The royal mage tried to explain to him that all this was in the country's interest, but Arthur was now completely fed up listening to his nonsense. He turned around and was about to leave. Just then, that rude person said with a cold smile that he would soon understand what the consequence of opposing royal people was, and he would also ensure that its consequences reached his parents. Right there, Arthur's patience broke, and he immediately told that royal mage to dare repeat his words again. He slowly turned, and at that very moment, an extremely intense killing intent burst out of his body. The pressure was so heavy that the entire auction house came under its grip. Suddenly, the air began to feel heavy. People panicked, and weak people like Vincent fell to their knees because they could not withstand an alpha-level presence like Arthur's. On the other hand, King Blaine was a Sigma too, and he immediately realized that some extremely powerful person nearby was completely enraged. Meanwhile, Arthur himself was shocked that in anger he let his true emotions out. He understood that a quite big scene had been created by now, and by the time he calmed himself down, Reynolds and his people had started clearing the auction house. In a short while, regarding this whole matter, Vincent, Reynolds, and their families were summoned by the king. The king told Reynolds that being the security head, the responsibility for not catching the intruder in time fell on him. Reynolds admitted his mistake and got ready for punishment. But just then, the royal mage interfered and said that since no casualty occurred, there should be some leniency in the punishment. After this, he immediately turned toward Arthur and said that he had a magnificent mana beast, and only he could bring it to its full potential. Now, Arthur clearly understood that the old cunning man had completely trapped him, and King Blaine was also unknowingly supporting him. The king told Reynolds that a mage named Sebastian had been serving him for years, and if he had a contract beast, perhaps all this would have stopped before it even happened. Then he asked Reynolds what his thoughts were on handing over his son's mana beast, and Arthur was just about to speak when his his mother signaled him to be quiet. The good thing was that Reynolds also clearly told the king that Arthur acquired the mana beast on his own merit. Therefore, the decision to give it or not would be his alone. King Blaine now looked at Arthur, who was quite disturbed inside. But composing himself, he calmly replied that he could not give his companion and friend. Changing his offer, the king said that he should take the lion cub in exchange for that small lizard which he had just bought, because in the future it would become a powerful mana beast. Arthur's patience had now completely run out, and he stated in clear words that he would neither give, sell, nor exchange his companion at any price. Hearing this, the king felt offended because despite his high status, he had asked very politely twice. Giving Arthur a last chance, he asked if he would exchange the mana beast or not. And right here, Arthur wanted to show the king that a real king was made not by a crown, but by attitude. He stood up and directly asked how much he would sell his children for. Hearing this, Blaine was stunned. Then Arthur reminded him that he also asked him 3 times and was refused every time. He told the king to learn something from this and not let his ego dominate him. Sebastian, in anger, immediately ordered the knights to catch that rude boy. But Arthur took down both knights with a single punch each. Seeing this, Sebastian's patience broke, and he decided to jump into the fight himself because he wanted to get Sylvie at any cost. The old man rained fire down. But at that same moment, Arthur used the special power received from his dragon companion, and for everyone present in the room, time froze. Sebastian could not understand what was happening, and Arthur told him that his magic would not work. Now, Sebastian got scared. Still, composing himself, he said that he could not win against a royal mage. But Arthur, without even touching him, broke his leg. Sebastian screamed in pain. He shouted for help, but in frozen time, no one could hear his voice. Arthur warned him to think 100 times before doing anything further, but that man still threatened that no one survived after clashing with royals. Just then, he saw the image of a huge dragon behind Arthur, and his body began to tremble with fear. He realized that he had clashed with a power that was far beyond his limit. At that same moment, time began to move again because Arthur had used more power than necessary. As soon as everyone regained consciousness, Arthur fell down unconscious, and his family panicked. A few days later, when he opened his eyes, there was a sharp pain in his head and Yundavale. He understood that if he tried to stop time for more than a few seconds, it would prove dangerous for him. When Alice and Sylvie entered the room, he sat up in bed, and Sylvie became extremely happy to see him. He asked her what happened after. He fainted. She told him that everyone was very worried, but the doctor said he would be fine. Alice also admitted that even hearing this did not reduce her anxiety. He told her to go to the market for a while. She helped him buy gifts for Eleanor. And meanwhile, Arthur started worrying about money because he was sure that his father must have lost his job. But Alice calmed him down and told him that she had some extra work too. So there was no problem with money right now. When they returned home after shopping, Arthur saw Reynolds talking angrily to a guest. He asked what the matter was, but Adam and Durden signaled him to remain silent. In a short while, they were called inside, and Reynolds immediately asked how he was feeling now. Arthur said he was absolutely fine. Just then, that guest stood up and formally started apologizing on behalf of the king for the previous incident. The king had also sent some money to hush up the matter, and Arthur felt that they wanted to trivialize the attack on his life by calling it just an incident. Arthur told both of them to stop and calmly explained that being a little rude in front of the king was also his fault. And honestly speaking, he did not get any serious injury in the end. Then, as soon as the injury was mentioned, Arthur asked about the royal mage, and the messenger said that he had also been fired and was currently admitted to the hospital. The messenger said that as soon as Sebastian regained consciousness, he started screaming loudly that Arthur had broken his leg. Reynolds wanted to interrupt because no one had seen that incident, but the messenger let him speak and said to at least listen to him fully. He further explained that after investigation, it was concluded that the energy of the soldiers attacking Arthur rebounded and interfered with the mage's spell, due to which he got injured himself. The messenger also added that even though Arthur had enough talent to attract King Blaine's attention, he would have to learn better manners because not everyone was as forgiving as their king. Reynolds understood this and accepted the compensation money along with the apology. He gave the money to Arthur because the attack was on him and told him to use it wisely. From this whole incident, Arthur had a deep realization that having fighting strength alone was not enough to keep himself and his family safe. He needed much more than that. He began to feel that he needed authority and influence to stand against the royal family, and in his mind, the Magic Academy was the best place to acquire such power. Arthur went to the Magic Academy not to take admission, but he ran toward the forests near the campus where the director of the academy was waiting for him because Vincent had fixed a meeting between the two. Arthur wanted to seize this opportunity completely because the director had absolute control over the academy, and her influence in the country's politics was considered equal to the royal family. The director was also happy to see Arthur because she had heard very good things about him from Vincent. Vincent, and now she wanted to see for herself if he was truly as powerful as described. Arthur calmly said that he was ready, and the director created a protective barrier with her magic so that no one else could see them, despite using such a massive amount of mana. When Arthur showed no reaction, the director was already impressed. Although Arthur had hidden his feelings, he decided to show only a small fraction of his power, enough for the person in front to understand his potential. First, he pulled some stones from the ground with wind magic and threw them toward the director, but the director easily stopped them using earth magic and crushed them without any effort. Arthur was a little surprised, but then decided to try other elements because currently, wind magic was his weakest ability. He attacked the director simultaneously from all sides with earth magic, but she blocked everything with wind magic. After this, Arthur thought of showing his close combat skills and boosting his physical abilities moved toward her, but the elderly woman blew him away easily with her wind magic. As soon as Arthur fell to the ground, he realized that he had gotten the hint, and thankfully, this was enough to impress the director. She told Arthur that he overestimated his abilities a little, but despite that, he was genuinely quite strong and skilled. However, one last test remained before accepting him as a student. She told Arthur to remain conscious even after the next attack, and then cast a powerful sound spell, making Arthur feel as if his head was splitting into two. Somehow, he withstood the effect of the spell, and the director told him that he had passed the test. She said that she wanted to make him her personal student so that she could teach him all her knowledge, but Arthur just kept staring at her, so she asked what exactly he wanted to say. Otherwise, there was no need to come here and show his skills. Arthur calmly said that she had the exact authority and power he needed to protect his family, and if she give it, then he was ready to join the academy and accept her as his mentor. Hearing his such confident and almost arrogant words, the director was surprised and said that even the king never dared to give her such a one-sided proposal. Arthur said that he was fully confident that he was worth this deal, and he knew that the director was also thinking the same deep inside. The director was happy with his attitude, but just then Arthur said that he would join the academy only when his age became right. The elderly woman told him that his age for admission to the academy would be appropriate after 3 years, and if he joined now, he could become very powerful. Arthur replied that he wanted to live his life now and experience the world, because he had time, and for this reason, he was planning to become an adventurer for the next 3 years. The director did not find this idea bad, but she asked if he had told his parents about this. Arthur said that he would tell them soon, and the director said that if he convinced them, she would accept his proposal. But at home, the situation turned out to be much more complicated than he thought. Even before Arthur could tell his parents through Vincent, they found out about his plan to become an adventurer. Alice got angry because she did not want to send her son away again as soon as he returned home. On the other hand, Reynolds understood that every person should taste adventure in their life. He said that perhaps if a guard remained with Arthur all the time, he could become an adventurer. But Alice clearly refused to listen to him. Anyway, Arthur finally convinced her on the condition that he would come back home every few months, and, if needed, he could return even sooner than that. Eleanor also became a little sad about his leaving, but Arthur explained to her that he would stay at home for some more time now. When Eleanor asked him why he wanted to go on an adventure at all, he gave a diplomatic answer that he wanted to feel the same excitement that they did in their golden days, although the truth was that he just wanted to test his strength and skills in real battles. Reynolds partially agreed with him, but he clearly stated that for Arthur's safety, it was necessary to have a guardian with him. He soon invited all his old companions to lunch and asked who was ready to look after Arthur. Adam immediately refused, saying that he did not like children and feared that one day Arthur would kill him in his sleep. Everyone laughed at this and agreed too, but they also said that in such a situation, the fault would be Adam's alone. Reynolds told everyone that currently he could not pay much for this job, but everyone assured him that they were not worried about money because they wanted to see Arthur grow up. Just then, suddenly Jasmine stepped forward and spoke of taking this responsibility. Alice was shocked because Jasmine disliked being a bodyguard the most. Jasmine clearly said that she would do this for Arthur, and everyone agreed that she was perfect for this role because she was an augmenter who could also use wind magic. Party leader Adam also agreed, and everything was finalized right there. Later that same day, Arthur and his family saw Lilia meditating alone in the living room, and Eleanor got irritated that she had started training without her. Arthur was happy with their training results, but deep down, he also wanted Eleanor not to awaken her magic powers too quickly, because this could attract unnecessary attention. After this, Arthur went to the auction house to choose a weapon for his Adventurer Guild test, and Vincent advised him to look around at his leisure. Arthur reached the armory and was amazed to see the boat's huge variety of weapons present there. But soon this very thing became a problem for him because he could not decide anything. Most swords were two-handed, and the ones meant for one hand were also too big for him. Just then, Sylvie suddenly found a special sword for him. At first, Arthur thought it was some ordinary rod stuck under the desk, but when he pulled it out, he understood that it was not just an iron bar, but was quite heavy. He realized that it was a sword, but he could not pull it out of the sheath in the normal way. That was why he used his magic. As soon as he flowed mana into the blade, strange words appeared before his eyes, and then a magnificent sword appeared, which seemed to be made of transparent crystal. Arthur found it a bit difficult to handle, but its sharpness was so tremendous that a barrel was cut in a single slash. He saw some engravings on the blade, but he could not understand their meaning. Suddenly, the sword gave him a shock and fell from his hand, but when he picked it up again, it had become much lighter than before. Arthur noticed that the sword's length had also adjusted according to his small body, and now he could wield it easily. He was shocked because he had never heard of such a weapon that adapted itself according to its user. Just then, Reynolds and Vincent arrived there looking for him. Because he had been stuck in the armory for quite a long time, Arthur panicked. He told them to wait a minute and quickly picked up a normal sword lying nearby. He told his father and Vincent that he wanted this sword. Reynolds swung it a few times to test it and expressed his agreement, and Vincent also had no objection. But just then his eyes fell on the second sword tied to Arthur's waist. Arthur became a little nervous, but composing himself, he said that he found a strong and heavy rod which was perfect for practice. Vincent did not recall any such thing in the warehouse, but his assistant explained that an eccentric old man had once left a heavy rod there, saying that it had no suitable user. He said that they showed it to many evaluators, but no one could understand its mystery, and asked if they should seek advice from an expert. Arthur did not want to give up the sword. That was why he immediately put on a cute drama to convince Vincent. Vincent melted completely and told Arthur to take the rod because they were not going to sell it anyway. Arthur became happy, but Reynolds started having a slight suspicion that Vincent had perhaps become overly soft. After this, Arthur started living a normal life with his family. He completed his to-do list and also continued his training to become an adventurer. Soon he turned 9, and a small birthday party was held for him. Everyone gave him such special gifts that would help him as an adventurer in the future. Reynolds and Alice gave him a gauntlet studded with a magic stone in which Alice's healing spells were stored so that he could heal himself if injured. Vincent gave him a ring that basically acted like a sensor. If Arthur was in danger, it would ring, and Alice would get a signal immediately. Adam and his companions had bought a voice message device for him, with the help of which he could send messages home, and his family could also reply to him. Arthur thanked everyone for these gifts, and becoming a little confident, said that he would become the best adventurer ever. Alice hugged him and softly said that he did not need to become rich or super successful, because she just wanted him to return home safe. That same night, Arthur packed luggage for his journey and thought deep inside that to protect his family and friends, he would have to become stronger than even his past life. After this, he went downstairs and saw that his entire family was waiting for him. Everyone gave him an emotional farewell, gave lots of wishes, and from here, Arthur got ready to start his journey with Jasmine. Jasmine first took him to the Adventurers Guild for registration, and Arthur wore a mask so that he would look a little different, and also keep his identity hidden so that the royal family would not interfere in his life. The receptionist took them to Guild Master Caspian's office, who warmly welcomed Jasmine because she was no ordinary adventurer. Caspian understood that Jasmine wanted Arthur to take the rank evaluation test directly, and he explained that normally people had to take some basic tests first. Then he leaned close to Jasmine and whispered in her ear that she was from a noble family and he had good relations with her father, so he would give her special permission and let her companion take the test direct. After this, the Caspian turned toward Arthur and calmly stated that revealing the real name was not necessary for guild registration. He asked by what name he should be addressed, and Arthur decided to register his fake name. As soon as he shook hands with Caspian, he realized that this ordinary-looking man was actually quite powerful. Then Caspian took them to the battlefield, which was also used as a test arena. A young mage girl was already taking the test there, and her explosive power was tremendous, but due to a lack of defensive skills, she got a C rank. Jasmine casually told Arthur that the girl definitely had potential because getting a C rank at such a young age was not easy, and then the next candidate came forward. That smart student got a B rank directly without fighting the examiner, which left everyone shocked. Arthur asked Jasmine in surprise how this happened, but she also did not have a clear answer. Just then, an arrogant boy named Lucas came forward and told the examiner to skip the test for him and give him an A rank too. The examiner said that he was indeed impressive because at just 11 years of age, his mana core had reached the light orange level. Everyone was surprised by this, and just then Arthur realized that Lucas was actually actually an elf. As soon as the test started, Lucas immediately summoned a fire demon and sent it toward the examiner, but the examiner immediately trapped it inside a rocky pyramid. Lucas nimbly climbed on top of the pyramid and attacked with his staff, activating a powerful spell, and fireballs began falling in the arena even during the preparation phase. But he could not control that massive fireball rising in the sky, and it suddenly exploded, putting the entire arena in danger. The examiner took immediate action, creating a dust cloud. She saved Lucas and also neutralized his attack. When the dust and smoke cleared, the examiner told Lucas that he performed well but was still filled with overconfidence, and just then she attacked him without warning. Luckily, Arthur threw his sword and stopped that attack, which made Lucas furious. He shouted that the test should be held again because a third party had interfered, but the judge told him that the exam was already over. The head examiner then told Lucas that he had a lot of power and potential, but due to a lack of basic sense, she would only give him a D rank. Hearing this, that dwarf-blooded boy was stunned and said that he would complain to his father. Just then, the examiner picked him up with earth magic and took him out. After this, Arthur's turn came, and as soon as he stepped into the arena, a terrifying aura began to emit from his body. The referee instantly became alert because he had not expected this. But just then, Caspian told him to step back because he would do Arthur's personal evaluation. The referee argued that an AA rank adventurer could not test rookies, but Caspian calmly replied that he had a special connection with Jasmine, so he was just doing a favor. As soon as Caspian drew his sword, Arthur became serious and steadied himself. He felt that he was probably facing the most powerful person in the city, and this fight was going to be much more than just a normal assessment. Surprisingly, this increased his excitement even more, and he charged at Caspian to show his strength. Arthur coated his sword with fire and attacked, but Caspian blocked it without any effort. Both started exchanging fast blows, and Caspian noticed that Arthur's movements were a bit slow, but the reason was that he possessed skill far beyond his body's limits. Suddenly, Arthur found an opening and went to strike, but Caspian moved back and forced him to retreat. Arthur used fire magic to increase speed and attacked again, but the guild leader pushed him away with wind magic and warned him not to be so overconfident. Finally, after the test was cleared, Arthur became a B-rank adventurer and got his license. At that same moment, the guild's top officials surrounded Caspian because more than 2 children had received B rank in a single day. Caspian reminded them that about 6 months ago, the kingdom had removed the law that prevented elves and dwarves from becoming adventurers. Both officials understood the point. Most children getting B rank had elf or dwarf blood, like Lucas, who was a half-elf and came from a family notorious for going to any extent to produce powerful mages. The nerdy boy who did not actually even take the test was actually a human only. The only difference was that he was raised in the kingdom of dwarves and had the support of some very influential people. For this reason, Caspian was also not in a position to test him. The officials were a little tensed regarding its future consequences, but the knight was quite curious to know about Arthur. Caspian clearly stated that he did not know much about Arthur's past, but he was fully sure that Arthur was neither an elf nor a dwarf. Yes, he was definitely powerful, and even more important was that Jasmine, the daughter of the kingdom's most powerful fire-wielding family, was supporting him. Caspian believed that Arthur's fire magic was good, but his swordsmanship was even sharper and refined than that. If he kept practicing like this, he could truly become a formidable adventurer. Meanwhile, Arthur also realized that he was focusing a bit too much on magic, and if he truly wanted to become strong, he would have to work harder on sword training. As soon as he stepped out of the guild, he suddenly met Elijah. Elijah advised him and said that stopping Lucas was his stupidity. Then the very next moment, he said that if Arthur hadn't done so, he would have stopped Lucas himself. Just then, Lucas himself asked them what exactly they were talking about. Arthur and Elijah both ignored him. This irritated Lucas even more because, according to him, he was at least as strong as these two. Arthur calmly explained to him that a D-ranker like him should keep his distance from B-rank adventurers. In anger, Lucas grabbed his collar, but due to the eyes of people around, he ended the matter right there. After this, Jasmine took Arthur to the place from where most newbie adventurers started their journey. Although Jasmine knew that there was nothing special for Arthur to do here, she told him that their real destination was still quite far. Saying this, she started running, and it was not easy for Arthur to chase her either. Arthur was amazed at how Jasmine could run so fast, and today, for the second time, someone had genuinely surprised him. A while ago, Arthur had slightly underestimated Caspian, and now he felt that perhaps he was losing his edge. Just then, suddenly loud explosions were heard from the direction of the forest. In a few seconds, a giant armored wild boar appeared in front. People started running here and there out of fear, but some unfortunate adventurers became victims of that terrifying monster. Jasmine immediately told Arthur that they should retreat because this wild boar was a high-level monster not normally found in this area. A short distance away, they found found an injured merchant group who had a broken cage lying with them. Jasmine understood that they were transporting this boar somewhere, but it must have escaped from the cage. Suddenly, that wild boar reached them and charged at them. Arthur and Jasmine somehow dodged its initial attack, but the very next moment, it threw its long tongue toward them. Both dodged that too. Jasmine counterattacked, but despite her best efforts, she could only inflict minor damage on it. Suddenly, the boar lunged toward the same tree that Jasmine was using for support. Without getting a chance to balance, Jasmine had to jump back. Arthur immediately used wind magic and reached her in the blink of an eye, pulling her out of the danger zone. Meanwhile, the boar's attention shifted toward the injured adventurers, and Jasmine moved forward to save them. Arthur also wanted to help her, but just then, his instinct stopped him, telling him that rushing now would not be right. He calmed himself down and waited for the right moment. As soon as the boar focused completely on Jasmine, Arthur moved forward at lightning speed using wind magic. He coated his special sword with fire magic and struck the boar with a decisive strike, stopping it right there. After this, Arthur rained powerful blows without stopping and finally finished it off. Later, when the adventurers were taking away the dead boar, Jasmine explained to Arthur that in such situations, he should show at least a little panic. Arthur remained confused about where exactly he made a mistake this time. At night, both lit a campfire. In that quiet atmosphere, Jasmine told her story of why she ran away from home and became an adventurer. She said that her family had produced great fire mages for generations, and they took great pride in this legacy. Jasmine had awakened mana before her sibling. Therefore, her parents had high expectations from her. But when it was discovered that she could not use the fire element, they called her useless and a disgrace, and that was where her heart broke. Hearing this, Arthur got genuinely angry. He said that no element was better than another. Everything depended on how it was used. Seeing him so angry, Jasmine laughed and said that she never thought Arthur would react so much to this. Arthur became a little embarrassed, but the truth was that in his past life too, people called him useless, and to prove that thinking wrong, he worked hard to change himself. Jasmine then told him that she also fought recklessly like Arthur earlier, for which she got a lot of scolding from her teammates. From there, she started learning to trust others and teamwork, and those people were able to make her a better person. Gradually, Jasmine fell asleep, and Arthur kept watch all night. He asked himself if he could also change. He thought about all the people he wanted to protect and promised himself that to keep them safe, he would change himself as much as possible. If you liked this video, then do not forget to subscribe, and the next video is ready on your screen.